Hello, welcome to PDX Garden Home. It is a break in the rainy weather here in Portland. Today has been great, no rain, nice cloud overhead. It gets that nice fall feeling, which I enjoy having here in the garden. And I thought I would take you along for a late fall garden tour. So what we have behind here that is still kind of going in the garden in the flower bed back here is the feverfew. And I just learned a few weeks ago that feverfew is a type of chrysanthemum, or it's in the chrysanthemum family. And then also you can see there's some ragged zinnias. You know, it's pretty cold now for zinnias, but we have some leftover zinnias that are still kind of here. They're just a little bit ragged. Well, as you may be able to see here, we've been working our way through the wood chips. We'll probably need to get another unit for all the paths, but as we kind of go around the garden here, you will see kind of where we've been able to lay down a lot of cedar chips, and that's made it so that this fall it's not so nasty to walk around the garden. As you can see, my compost area is falling apart. I just don't have the energy right now in the near term to like dig this out of the way and kind of reposition it, but I will. That project is on deck. We're also moving compost, finished compost, into the beds, and been stacking kind of branches over here. So this part of the flower garden's gone a bit wild, so you'll see kind of what's going on in there. But the things that have actually grown a lot of foliage and are doing really well right now are the artichoke plants. So I'll show you those. That being said, they're not, I don't expect them to flower this time of year, so it's just nice that the plants kind of got good growth on it now, and hopefully it'll be good for next year. Well, behind me here over my shoulder, behind me over here in my shoulder is some Shanghai bok choy. You can see it's been kind of ravaged a bit by some bugs, but it's still doable, and it hasn't flowered, so it's still kind of in a zone where it's just kind of hanging out there, and I could be harvesting it any time here. Well, one of the things that has been doing well in the fall here is these hydrangeas that I have kind of in a line back here. They're growing more. They're getting a little bit bigger than they were earlier in the year, actually. So this seems to be kind of the weather and the rain and whatever just seems to be kind of a growth stimulant for them at the moment. So that's cool, and hopefully that means we'll get kind of a bigger plant and more blooms come next spring into summer. Well, this is the back alleyway that I have. It's behind our compost area that's right over here, and I've kind of cleaned up some of the leaves in here. We'll put some more wood chips down in here, and yeah, it's a nice pathway that leads straight into the kind of the side street here, and great if we keep it clean. It works great. Often it doesn't end up being that useful because it just gets filled up with leaves and kind of becomes an extra junk area. So that's what I need to work on, is not letting it just become an extra junk area, but actually keeping this clean so that it can be useful as a walkway and a path. I can dump compost from this side. It's great. What you're seeing in this part of the garden is some Brassica plants that were put in for fall. There's some kales, some cabbages, some Brussels sprouts. The kale is actually in a state where it can kind of be harvested, but the Brussels sprouts, as I kind of anticipated in earlier videos, I just haven't, I didn't get them in and grown quick enough, so they're not really big enough to produce for this fall winter season. They might overwinter and do something for me, we'll see. And same thing with the cabbages. We'll probably have to overwinter, and maybe we'll get cabbage early next spring on that. And then what you see, kind of the golden foliage over there, is actually the asparagus ferns turning golden before they die off for the season. So this was the pumpkin patch, and it has now become the bed that I still have some bok choy in. This is the white stem bok choy. I was trying to leave it to see how big it could grow, And even in the fall, it bolted on me here, as you can see, or it put up a stem. So I've got a bunch with these yellow stems. I think it could still be okay to harvest because it's not super hot, or it's not hot at all right now. So I can just cut the stems off and probably harvest it, and it'd still be good to eat, good to stir fry anyway, which is probably what I'll do. But yeah, so we've got quite the bok choy patch here. And then behind that in the back is the Brussels sprouts, but as I was mentioning earlier, they're not, those Brussels sprouts aren't at a point to be harvested, and they're not probably going to be at a point to be harvested for the quite some time, probably not this year at all. So as you can see here, we have laid down our wood chips in here. We had first put our own homegrown compost here on the beds to refurbish them somewhat and for the fall, and then we've now put down some of the cedar chips here. So this area is looking nice. I like it. It's got a good, nice feel to it. I've been taking out the tomatoes and the tomato posts as I go here. And we still have, of course, then what was planted for fall in here. We still have some broccolis and cabbages and more attempts at Brussels sprouts out here. We do have leeks, so I'd say that's successful. We've got some leeks out here. Well, this is the part of the north garden here at PDX Garden Home that I call the main section, and it's the oldest part of the vegetable garden. It's where I started the garden here, and so back here, as I walk through here, what you're going to see is all the things that are actually still growing in here. There's actually quite a bit of broccoli in here, as you'll see, that is still doing well. There's also new cabbages and Brussels sprouts attempting to grow in here as well. There's still some leftover tomatoes. They're not really going anywhere at this point, but they're still there and on the vine, as you'll see. And you'll even see the last of the little coconut pumpkins, Koginut. And these, yeah, we're in that transition into late fall here, just before winter, and so everything is winding down. But you know, we're getting into mid-November, and there's probably still more going on here than some people would have expected at mid-November here in the Pacific Northwest. Well, for this last part of the tour, I'm going to be walking you around the engine room, so to speak, of the garden here, kind of the heart of the entire operation at PDX Garden Home, the potting shed, the outdoor potting bench, the greenhouse. There is another element to kind of, I would say, the kind of heart or engine of the garden, which is the basement nursery. And that I'm still working right now on getting that set up. So I'll show you some of that in future videos as we get into winter, and that's where I'll be spending more of the time as we start seedlings and are starting to get some things going for next season. So yeah, let me take you around kind of my favorite part of the garden, which is kind of the propagation work engine of this whole thing.